right, welcome everybody to the Monday, December 2nd, Conway Selectboard Committee meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. Since we have some guests waiting, I'm gonna go down to new business. At the very bottom of new business is vote to hire Juan Rivera as our building maintenance technician. Juan,
All right.
welcome and thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So you'll be under Ron.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions for us?
Nope. I found out everything. You're on. During my interview with Ron.
Okay. Where are you from?
I was born in Puerto Rico,
Uh-huh.
but I live in Greenfield right now. I just moved there about a month and a half ago.
Oh, great.
So,
What part of Puerto Rico?
San Juan.
What part of San Juan?
Old San Juan.
Old San Juan. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
Old San
I
Juan.
lived in Coronado and Isla Verde for a while,
Oh, nice.
so awesome.
That sounds good.
You want to add anything?
No, the interview we had with him went real well, and we were very excited about doing the interview.
Great.
Ron Crew does a really great job plowing, so the commute from Greenfield is not bad, even in the winter.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good thing to know.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Nope,
No?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor to vote to hire Juan Rivera as building maintenance technician at $21 an hour?
Aye.
Aye.
Welcome
Unanimous.
aboard.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you. Can I go
I
around,
can't.
shake you guys' hands?
You want? I'm Chris.
I'm Mark. Nice to meet you.
Good to see you again. I don't.
What's your name?
Oh, Adam.
Adam.
That's my real
Nice to meet you. It's gonna take me a minute to get everybody's name, so.
Just don't trip on the wires there.
Hi,
Hi, Stephanie.
I'm Juan.
Phyllis.
Nice to meet you,
Nice to
Phyllis.
meet you,
My
Juan.
visitor, Juan.
I'm Juan.
John.
Nice to meet you, John. I have the same name.
Lori.
Nice to meet you, Lori. My name is John in English.
Elaine.
Hi, Elaine. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Erica.
Hi,
Nice to
Erica.
meet you.
You guys have a good night.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
See ya.
We'll see you around town.
Yes, you will.
Check out the Conway Inn, it's a nice little place to
Oh, yeah?
to have a membership.
Pizza on weekends.
Yep.
See ya.
Bye.
care.
Good night.
We're going to stick in new business here and move on to the. Oh, I'm sorry.
Give a quick update, since you're here.
Yes,
Okay.
on the public safety building.
Mhm.
Things are moving along pretty good up there. We got the hole dug, we poured the concrete footings and the walls. We got it all backfilled, and they poured the floor, for the utility room in the old part of the building. And they're putting walls up now, they're framing the outside walls up, and we got the first two bays of the concrete, mostly all of it out, so we're getting that ready, so hopefully soon we'll be pouring the floor in the first two bays.
Great.
Well, the tech school came and did the plumbing, with the help of Kenny and Chris, and put the radiant floor heat down, so it's all in the ground now, so and we'll be doing that in the first 2 days, so. Yeah, it's moving along.
Really fast.
Very exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, we have the bills in our warrant already.
Yes.
They're very quick with everything. Well, that's great.
The builder is actually in a slow spot with the house that he's building, he's waiting for trusses, so this was kind of getting moved along probably faster than it would have.
Right.
We didn't have that.
Speaking of trusses, two of the three walls are already up. When do they expect to put the actual roof on the extension?
He's hoping in 2 weeks.
Awesome. That'd be
I
great.
don't know if
to
the
have.
actual metal would be on the roof, but the plywood would be on.
Yeah, yeah. Got it.
That's what he's hoping for in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
So.
Excellent.
Great.
Exciting times.
Yeah.
It really is.
Any other questions for Ron? Super.
Great.
Thank you,
Just be
sir.
glad we're not in Buffalo, right?
That's all.
It's given us enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Great, thank you, Ron, appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Ron.
Y'all have a good
Night,
night.
All right.
Night, Ron.
Night, Ron.
We'll move on to the election infrastructure safe report. Welcome.
Thank you all.
Everybody, this is John.
Hello, John.
So I work with Department of Homeland Security, CISA, Cyber and Infrastructure Security Agency. And pre-election, we were pretty maxed out, traveling all over the Commonwealth, visiting municipalities at the municipalities' request, kind of in cooperation with the Secretary of the Commonwealth's office. They would establish a request from a town clerk. They would pass it on to us, and whether it was myself, my partner out in the east of the state, or the State Fusion Center's troopers, we would come in and look at election primarily physical infrastructure. The tool we use is called a Security at First Assessment Report, Security at First Entry Assessment Report. And it's made up of a walkthrough of the facilities that we're looking at, and also an in-depth conversation with Lori in the clerk's office. So the way the report comes out, if you could head to the next slide, please. October 15th, we came in, met with Lori, got a good tour of the facility. What you'll hear, the way the report falls out, is a list of options for consideration, right? Don't confuse these with findings. We're not regulatory. We're not compliance-based. That's the Secretary of State's office. They don't even get this report, right? This comes back to the town of Conway. It's your report to do with what you choose. We send it back for official use only, because it does identify vulnerabilities within the town infrastructure, within buildings. Your call. You can do that whatever you want with it. We just don't share it anywhere else. So next, please. So first of all, we talk about commendables, right? You're doing a lot of difficult work with very limited resources. You probably aren't sitting in brand new infrastructure where every security consideration was taken into account when the facility was built. I don't go too overboard with this, with the commendables, and the example I can give you is I come into a facility and maybe there's cameras everywhere, and I put it down as a commendable. Well, you know what, that's the best video surveillance system I've ever seen. And then the municipality applies for a grant, and they want to add additional cameras or monitors, and the grant folks say, wait a minute, you called this the best you've ever seen, why would they need more? So, a lot of great work being done, and a lot of great work being done in facilities that are New England proud, right? 200 years old, and certainly repurposed for you to take advantage of every square foot in the building. So certainly, just the fact that you invited us in shows proactive municipal leadership. You know, you're interested in your constituents, you're interested in your customers, you're interested in keeping your employees safe. So. A lot of good work being done here. Next, please. So this is what the tool looks like. Again, the bulk of the report falls under what we call options for consideration. You could look down that report and say, you know what, we tried that 5 years ago, not going to work. Skip right on to the next recommendation. Some of the considerations are low cost, no cost. It means we can change it, we can write a new policy. A lot of the examples I use are for school districts, because we do a lot of work with school districts. For example, school districts have bus loops where they're dropping kids off. A lot of kids are piling out on the sidewalks. When those buses pull away, the traffic lane is wide open for potential vehicle ramming. A policy change could be, don't allow the buses to move until the kids are safely inside the school, because the buses create a vehicle brake. That's a no-cost, low-cost consideration. Some considerations, the only thing you do is buy your way out of it. If you don't have cameras, and we recommend cameras, then the only way you're going to get there is, you know, through a grant or through some type of funding. Haven't met a town yet that's sitting on a bloated budget that they just don't know what to do with. So we try not to make wide-scale, you know, considerations that don't become considerations because they're not based in reality. We also try and keep in mind that the mission of most town facilities is to be open to the public, right? And you're not looking to turn them into Department of Corrections where, windows are barred and doors are locked. You still have a customer service standpoint to facilitate. So on the right, you can see all the different areas that we talked about when we were here. They go into making up the report. Some vulnerabilities are a simple check block in the report. Does the town have a security plan? The answer is yes. I skip the question. If the answer is no, I check the block. And the option for consideration is, why don't you write a security plan? Other options for consideration are based specifically on an observation that we made while we were here. And we'll get into some of those in just a moment. We're not going to cover every single option for consideration in the report in this presentation. You have the report, you can go through it. I'll highlight some of the ones that either kind of floated to the top or were based on specific observations here in the facility. Next, please. So, first, interior rooms supporting shelter in place have very large windows. We're sitting in one of them, right? If you've got a facility, and the example I can give you here is a school cafeteria, 200 little heads sitting down to have lunch, big huge plate glass windows, complete visibility on how many kids are in the classroom. What we would normally recommend in that case, because you're not going to nail them shut, is what we call ballistic window filming. This is similar to how a windshield acts. It's a filming that goes on the inside of the window. It can be reflective so that I can't see who's sitting inside. It doesn't block outside light from coming in, and it also keeps the window intact even if your landscaping crew flings a rock through it. It's not blowing out into the facility.
Or one of those tractor-trailer trucks that's whizzing by.
Right. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a malicious act. This can be just for protection of, and we normally look at larger congregate areas like a conference room. Certainly offices, but again, this would be a recommendation. Wherever you have staff that are in clear view of a walk-by or a drive-by, one of the considerations can be for reflective or clear ballistic filming.
That only works during the day though, right?
So it'll be reflective during the day, and at night it's designed so that when police come by during the night, they can see movement within the building.
Okay.
Most of the filmings dissipate that reflectiveness after once the lights come on. So again, with schools in mind, when are they least populated? At night. When would we like to know if there was somebody in the building at night? When they don't necessarily belong there. So that's one of the considerations. And there were several windows that we saw, but you can turn around and look at these in here and look. And really it's supposed to just obfuscate people that are sitting and conducting business in a room. Next, please. So there is definitely some planning that's been done. Municipalities tend to do a really good job on emergency response plans. Why? Because we live them. We've been through tornadoes, we've been through hurricanes, we've been through tropical storms, we've been through ice storms, right? Gas main break, water main break, they're all stuff, medical emergencies. You've all dealt with them as a municipality. So the emergency response plans are normally in pretty good shape. The one area that doesn't get discussed as often in the plan is hostile aggressor or active shooter. So that normally comes out of the visit. Continuity planning, on the other hand, is where the biggest example of this is the pandemic. How do we do business during the pandemic? In most cases, town halls lock their doors. They service people on a case-by-case basis only, or they service them out in the parking lot or in a doorway. You didn't have a lot of face-to-face contact. So what would we do during the election if this building were offline, right? And we started to talk about that. We also talked about even during this election, Lori winds up with a broken leg 3 days before the election. Who's the continuity, and are they familiar enough with the floor plan of the elections floor?
I do have one of those.
Have we taken some pictures of the floor when it was set up to include in our business continuity plan? Printing of polling floor plans, markup of the voter process flow, which entrances are we using, which exits are we using, go a long way in keeping you in business. Should the varsity not be available on the day, on go day, on game day. Next, please. Facility has limited mass notification system, not unusual for older New England town halls and town facilities. It's just not, unless you moved into an old school that had a public address system in it, you don't normally have an overhead public address system. Why is this important? If an office is compromised, there's a situation going on anywhere in your facilities, if you can't communicate what the issue is to other employees, they may not even know that the situation's underway. And we're going to get into in a minute exposure of certain offices. So how would we communicate an incident within this building, for example? Because there was some talk about moving some town offices, I think, into the second floor. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you're going to have people upstairs. Are they going to know potentially that you have an issue going on downstairs?
Mhm.
So we start to talk about, without an overhead paging system, which could be really expensive to put in to an older facility, then we start talking about things like all call and all page, which are functions on most voice over IP phone systems. A lot of people just don't know that they have them. Sometimes they're an additional charge from your phone carrier, but that's where you hit the *5 or the *2, and it beeps on every desk phone. And at least someone can pick up a phone and say, what's going on? And you can alert folks that way.
Can I ask a question? Could
Please.
we potentially use, I mean, I know our Blackboard system, like that's only for people in town who've opted in, but could we have like a separate distribution channel where we just require like all town employees and everyone who's on a board to subscribe to?
We could do that, and if you're talking about just a facility, we could certainly set it up so that every single phone, well, assuming it calls the extensions, that's.
Right. I mean, most
I mean, I
folks have their
think-
cell phones on them, so I'm just, thinking that if.
I think
that
the
was-
thing is, it's like, I'm here alone 90% of the time.
Yeah.
If something were to happen in this building when I'm here, how do I let anybody know without like, hey, let me grab my cell phone and call
Yeah.
somebody? I mean, what can I do to let people in the other building know, or people in the public safety building know,
Mhm.
hey, shit's going down here.
Yeah.
You know, a tractor trailer flew through my window, or I got a guy in the front hall who's ranting and raving with,
Mhm.
a machete in his hand.
Well, I know when we discussed it with John, when we've had a couple of incidents, that it was
Yeah.
just 911, just dial
Right,
911.
but that's,
And if you
reaching for
can't-
your phone sometimes is
Well,
not.
no, I understand that,
So
but
that's 100% accurate. So if you've got an irate individual in front of you, a lot of times reaching for your cell phone or your office phone is just enough to set them off. It can certainly aggravate the situation. So it's not the only option, this all call, all page. We also talk about panic buttons at
Right.
customer service counters, right?
Right.
Where we don't have to exacerbate the situation by reaching for a communications device. We can hit a button alongside of the counter, alongside of the door, and alert people that we may be under duress. Also, a lot of functions now carry, mobile radios, just the handheld radios. You see them in all the schools now. PE teachers out on the ball field, they leave with a radio, so they can still stay in communication with the facility. You can also use those within your space. And the panic buttons now come in a couple different varieties. You can either mount them at a customer service counter or a desk, or you can wear a mobile panic button. So I did an assessment at the emergency department down at Bay State, and they wear cards on their
was just
on
gonna
lanyards.
I was just gonna say that.
Get up.
That's what we have
Yeah,
at
it's
Holyoke Medical Center.
similar to the
Your
medical
badge
alert,
has
right?
a
Yes.
button.
So they can call a code from that button on their lanyard, but they can also alert the entire emergency department that they're moving into a potential lockdown situation because they've got an issue in one of the ambulance bays. So there's some technology out there for that. The question would be, am I at my desk more often than not? Do I have the ability to separate someone between me and a counter?
Mhm.
You're crazy exposed where you sit.
Yep.
Um,
Thank you.
So those are some options, right? Next, please. Camera coverage. What are cameras for? They're to be where we aren't, right? You can't be in every entrance and exit to the building. You don't necessarily know. Town halls, again, during the pandemic, locked their doors and they serviced customers through closed doors by appointment only. You lived it. The minute the pandemic ended, we opened everything back up again. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit that I could walk in the front door quietly and be standing at your shoulder without you even realizing I was in the building, right?
Most of the time, I do not know there's someone in the building until they're at my desk.
And although this was election function specific, which certainly involved the town clerks, this is still practices for any municipal employee in any of their facilities. So key areas, what's a DHS best practice? We like to see 360 degrees around a facility, so you can follow a car or a person on foot around the facility. Once someone moves inside, hallways, stairwells, elevator landings if you have them, any place that we could pick someone up at the front door and follow them throughout the facility. Doesn't have to be in offices, doesn't have to be in functions and areas where privacy matters. We don't want cameras overlooking voting functions, right? To be able to see a ballot being completed, but it doesn't hurt to have them in the open hall as long as the voting booths are facing away from the camera, right? Because we still see people coming and going. No town that I've run into yet pays someone to stare at camera feeds for a full-time job. It just doesn't happen. So in most cases, cameras support forensics, who did it and when. However, through the addition of some monitors in key places, like front entrances, where we can catch an image of someone coming through the door, they do start to work a little bit more proactively. The example I gave Lori that I'll share with you, my son graduated from Oliver Woolcott Tech down in Torrington, Connecticut. He was a sophomore pre-pandemic. I went to pick him up for a dentist appointment. In their main office, I was signing him out at the counter. Over my shoulder was this big 80-inch monitor with every camera view for the school. Lower left-hand corner, right-hand corner, there's my son doing a handstand off a cafeteria table, right? On camera, being recorded. Needless to say, we had a conversation on the way to the dentist about proper behavior. So this is the Target, Home Depot model of behavior modification. I approach a cash register, I enter the store, my image gets captured. You have that on recorded video, which is a quick reach to the chief of police, to let him know what went wrong. It's never going to stop someone from entering your facility that has harm in mind, but for most of your honest citizens, it will help keep them more honest. I just don't want to walk up to the town clerk or the tax collector and give him or her a hard time once I know my image has been captured walking into the building. So this is the discussion on cameras.
I'd be happy knowing when someone comes in the door. And like I said, most of the time, I don't know anyone's in until they're entering my office. But then there are situations where I was telling Jeremy just the other day, I heard someone come in because it was so quiet. I heard the front doors open and nothing. And after a while, I got up to go looking, and some random person was wandering around upstairs because they were in the wrong building and they were looking for something and had no idea where they were or what they were, But just a random person was wandering around upstairs. And
Next, please. And again, cameras, you kind of only buy your way out of that one. That's something that, and the other point of this report, it is the official vulnerability assessment that you need if you want to pursue a grant application. I think there's a not-for-profit grant being advertised right now. I think I sent you that.
I think so.
So, if the town wants to compete for that not-for-profit grant money, you could have bigger priorities. You probably have plenty of priorities, but at least you've got a vulnerability assessment on file for a facility here in town should you want to compete for that grant money.
Did I forward that to you?
I don't know.
Okay, it was a couple weeks ago.
Okay, so the clerk's office. This is one of the better examples of exposure that I've seen, literally within 5-6 steps to the front door, and there's nothing to really keep penetration into the office. You could close your door and wait for somebody to knock. Wasn't there an issue with temperature in there? Either freezing or cooking?
Yeah, in the wintertime, we keep it closed because there's no heat in the front hallway. And
Right.
it's just, we would be spending a fortune on heat. In the summertime, I tend to keep it open just so I can hear people come in the building.
Right. So you're living in the facility that you work in, right? It's just the way it is. We're not going to make a recommendation here to re-engineer the front door. It's probably way too much of a leap financially to get to. But what some municipal offices have gone to are the Dutch doors, right? So that at least keeps the business in the hallway. I can hear somebody open the door. You can even put a buzzer on the door, where it dings
Instead
when
of a
somebody
touch
enters the door. At least you have a heads up that someone came through that front door. And if you are considering cameras in key areas, certainly the front entrance would be one we'd recommend, and it's easy enough to have a monitor in your office that allows you to see who came through the front door.
Example is Ashfield. The town clerk, because she's there alone at night a lot, has a monitor on her desk with a camera in the parking lot and the doorway, so she can see when someone comes in the building.
And again, the goal here is that if you're kind of the first line of defense for somebody that enters this building, you probably need to know that they're in here. It's the only way, especially if you're going to move offices upstairs, right? Now you're going to have more people on the second floor who have they have a little bit more time, but they're also not going to have any way
And they have nowhere to
knowing.
go.
Right. So that's a consideration. Again, we're trying to look for some considerations kind of within the square footage you occupy. Next, please. Screening procedures. So you're not going to install metal detectors at your front doors, probably. Sometimes town halls have more than one entrance that's open all day long. Got an employee entrance in one location and a customer service entrance in another. Really, what we recommend here is signage, right? At least let people know what your expectation is. If we install cameras, there'll be a sign that says you've consented to monitoring by entering the facility. We as a municipality have the right to search bags within our facilities. We have a right to tell you that you can't bring weapons into the facility, that you can't bring drugs into the facility. Everybody hangs a no smoking, no vaping sign within the front door of most of their facilities, but anytime you have signage up, it protects the organization. Are you going to do bag searches? Probably not. You probably don't have the resource for that. But we did a project for Mass DOT, and we did the registries of motor vehicles, and I talked to the manager in Springfield. I said, hang the sign. If somebody chooses to leave their backpack in their car and just carry in the application for registration, it's a win for you. You don't have to be concerned about what's in the bag. So if a sign that says we have the right to search your bag keeps you from bringing your bag in, it's a win-win for the town, and it protects you. So those are some of the key vulnerability options for consideration. There's more in the report that talk about planning, emergency response planning, right? Continuity of business and security planning,
Yep.
where we talk about things like suspicious packages, about mail, how you gather mail for the town and how you distribute it, what a suspicious package looks like.
White powder envelopes that were being going
Right,
around.
right. It's a white powder envelope conversation from the elections. But those are the ones that we had specific observations, and rather than take up your entire meeting brief and everything that's in the report, you can all digest it. We do a lot more than just election infrastructure. I just got done in West Springfield this morning doing their public library and their council on, for aging at their senior center. So, if you need other things assessed within the municipality, I've done tons of school districts. You just let me know. Lori's got all my contact information.
I do.
And
Great.
happy to help. The other thing you'll find next, please, in the report are resources that are available. All these links are built into the report that you can go out and look at. These links are specifically driven more towards elections, non-confrontational techniques for election workers.
Confrontations.
But if you've got large town events going on, 4th of July celebrations, homecoming games, those type things, we've got some resources to be able to help with that as well. And I think the last slide is the additional points of contact that come up in the report. One of the most important is that EOP's Office of Grants and Research. There's a link in there that if you click on it, it allows you to sign up to be notified every time a grant comes into the state. Not every one of them will apply to you, but at least you know about it, and you can make a decision on whether you want to go and try and compete for
I
it.
assume you're already in that.
You already have it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have that one. We've done EOPS for a couple of years, but I may not have the official just grants and research. I may not have their NOFO, so.
So that's Ben Pasadlio's office. They're good. They'll even help you through a grant application if you need it. MEMA, if you need to round out plans, they have some real good resources. I deal with Scott Flavat from the Agawam office. Frequently, he's a Western Mass guy and can certainly help round out some planning considerations if you need it. And again, I'm here when and if you need me for anything else. Any questions that I can answer while I'm here?
This is a different from what we received.
This is a more general, this is specific to
Okay.
us, and this is just a general
But the
explanation of.
EOPSS is in this?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
should
that
be
has
under,
specific vulnerabilities that we're not discussing publicly.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't see the link is what I'm saying.
it should be
Oh.
under additional points of contact. It
Okay.
should say Ben Pasadlio.
If you're
in the
looking at, yeah.
report. I just took your report and kind of turned it into a PowerPoint.
Yeah,
so
there's a
we
whole
can-
bunch on the last couple of pages.
Yeah, so it should have Ben's name on the top under.
Oh, there it is.
Under additional
Got it.
points. And that link, if you cut and paste that into your browser, it will take you to a sign-up page for grant distribution.
It's an image, that's why I couldn't search the EO.
Of course, right? 'Cause it's a PDF.
Got it. Okay.
And you also have, I think we PDF this, right? So you already have this short presentation as well, so.
Yes, Veronique has it.
Got it. Great.
Anything else I can answer for you while I'm
That's
here?
great, thank you very much.
My
Appreciate it.
pleasure.
Very thorough. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
Mhm.
Great working with you, Lori, by the way.
Oh, and thank you so much for
Um,
making the trip for this very short presentation.
Yeah, no
It's a
problem.
very long
Like I said, I
drive.
was in West Springfield all morning, and I'm headed for Westboro tonight, so
Yeah.
You got a
all
long
good.
drive.
So I'll sign out and get out of your hair.
Thank you
That's-
again.
That's
Thank you very
cool.
much.
Appreciate you coming
I'm
down.
gonna hang out for Eversource if you don't mind.
Great.
I don't know we're doing the joint meeting next.
Yeah, because I don't want to keep you two.
You want to jump to personnel committee?
Yes.
Do you want
Okay.
to do that first so we
Yep.
don't keep you two?
That's totally
Okay.
fine.
Do I need to leave for that? Okay, I'm gonna walk you out.
All right.
Over walk out.
I think what I'm going to do is Veronique's going to drive.
Okay.
Stephanie, maybe what you can
You've
do
been
is.
driving all night.
So I have a question for a select board, and that is, everything you're gonna see here was recommended, approved, yes, from Personnel Committee. So the entire process that we're going through with the review and revisions to the personnel, the employee handbook it hasn't been updated since 2016. Last year at town meeting, it was approved to spend $1,500,
Like 1,200.
$1,200, to do a professional review with what's the
Employers Association of New England, but it has been updated
I'm
since
coming right back.
2016. Okay. Yeah.
to have them do a review for current best practices in HR, so on and so forth. So what you're looking at here are the red line changes that were approved by the Personnel Committee. What's going to happen after this, whatever you approve, is I'm going to save all the changes, get a clean copy off to EA&E. They're going to do their review. They're going to come back to us. It's going to be reviewed by town council at some point, and then it's going to come back to select board for the final approval. So it's like a 5-part review process. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run over here. So I guess my question for all of you is, a lot of the changes that you're going to see are what I would call, they're material, but they're not, they're factual, like a correction to hours from 20 to 10 hours or 10 to 12 hours. There are probably about 15 changes in the entire document. We can scroll through all of it, and you can vote on each one individually, which may not be a good use of anybody's time tonight, or we can go through the whole thing. And Stephanie, do you want to take notes as to see what the comments were, if anybody has any objections? Or you're not prepared to vote on something? Veronique, what do you think of that particular
Up to the
plan?
board.
I think that's fine by me.
Yeah.
Fine by me.
So we're not going to go through the whole thing, we're just going to go through the changes.
Yep.
Okay.
So what you're seeing in here in yellow is the highlighted clause. This is a red line strike. So we're taking this out because this was dealt with back, yeah. So this is described elsewhere, so it's duplicative and not necessary. All right, so the next yellow. Okay, this is a new addition. So this is the employees are hired by the town according to the following procedures. So the revision is internal postings. At the discretion of the select board, a town position may be posted internally for up to 2 weeks, giving current employees first option to apply for an opportunity for the position. The rationale that we came up with for this change is it doesn't guarantee that an internal candidate will be hired. It's merely a first opportunity. The second revision, a hiring committee may convene to interview qualified candidates and make recommendations to select board. That change is in there because ultimately select board has the ultimate hiring and firing responsibility. So that's a change that we added. This is new. This was put in by Jan because she did a pretty thorough review. And I'll give you a few minutes to read it. I'll read it out loud. Employees are liable for all tax, retirement, and their share of insurance premium deductions. Missed deductions must be paid for either in full at the time of discovery or a reasonable payment plan can be negotiated with the treasurer.
Okay.
Typical. Yep. And remember, this is going to go through several more layers of review, so we didn't focus too much on language.
Mhm.
You know, other experts will weigh in on the adequacy of the language that we inserted. Okay, this was removed, the word normally, because it doesn't add any value. And the goal was to make this plain English as much as possible. I will say that I'm going to go through and make this entire manual gender neutral.
There.
So, yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
that's gonna be a global change that I'm gonna do at the very end.
Right.
Or the employee's position.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Okay,
That's a big
so
one.
this was something we felt that select board may be most interested in having a discussion about, even though the change was minor. And the difference in meaning, I think, is significant because there's a difference between accepting and decision. So, the town may decide, or this perhaps should say select board.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will you make a note for me to make that change? Select board may decide a resignation is effective immediately. However, wages will be paid through the end of the 2-week notice. So again, it gives flexibility to select board. And then this, scroll up a little bit, yeah, here's the new change down here. Additionally, accrued sick time for future holidays will not be paid. A final paycheck will be mailed on the next scheduled payday if an employee resigns. If an employee is involuntarily terminated, a final paycheck will be available as soon as possible when payroll administrative employees are scheduled. This is to take into account holidays, unavailability. All right, this is a parenthetical comment that I inserted that I think might be something that the select board, you may decide you want to discuss, because one thing that this manual doesn't really address is remote work. So if you read this paragraph, and I can give you a few minutes to read it. This was, pre-COVID. So it just assumes that, town property, including town laptops and so forth, are town property. But it doesn't say, it doesn't touch on anything related to remote work and what employees' obligations are with respect to the equipment that they have when they're working remotely. Now,
Because presumably, if you're doing remote work, you've already removed town equipment from the premises.
Well, the
That's
laptop would be town equipment.
true, that's
Right,
true.
it's if I'm using
But-
it at home, I've removed it.
Oh,
from
I
the
see what you're
premises.
saying.
Yeah.
But for example, similar to the presentation that we just had regarding security, to the best of my knowledge, there's no schedule of who's got town equipment or at home, or is using town equipment at home other than possibly
No,
laptops?
we do. Like,
Oh,
for instance,
okay.
this is my laptop, and sits at home most of the time so that I can work from home.
But other than laptops, are there other devices or printers or something else?
There's a printer. I don't think there's much else.
Okay.
I use my own printer. I have a town laptop, I use my own printer.
Yeah.
Verity, it did occur to me that we can make this something that we can let EA&E comment on.
I was gonna say, I'm sure they've probably dealt with changes that might have happened to allowing workers to work remotely.
Yeah,
But my guess is that, it's not gonna happen very often unless there are extenuating circumstances
Right.
throughout the town.
right,
So it probably should be addressed generally, like if there's something that happens,
okay.
that we're forced to.
I think
So
Erica's right, the only real change you need is on the removal from premises if they're remote workers. Otherwise, the statement would be accurate if it's still town property, if it's a laptop or a printer.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I don't know if you could say something, and this is probably a question for EA&E, but
Yes.
maybe no property equipment may be withheld from the town.
Stephanie, could you put a note saying that, call out that we want to ask them their EA&E's expertise on this? EA&E, which is
Okay.
the associations that's going to do the review
Yeah.
of this for best practices.
Yeah.
Because that's something that they're tuned into.
Oh, yeah.
They do these employee manual reviews for all kinds of municipalities and organizations, so they'll know what the current best practices are on this subject. Okay. And
Police cruiser.
Maybe we just say, emergency personnel.
yeah.
Then you're involving ambulances.
Oh, yeah.
So, we also started a discussion about the, fire cruisers and police cruisers. And
Some that's like in individual contracts.
Correct. And I was gonna say, I don't think we ever checked, but to see if but I don't think that conflicts with anything that we
No, I
did.
don't
So the
think
only
so.
question that came up was whether or not the same applied to, because it mentions highway, so the only other one really would be the fire department.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with saying the same for the fire department.
So,
Steph, why don't you put a note here I'd like to have EA&E comment on this too. This is moved to a new gown with health insurance?
Makes sense.
There it is.
Okay.
I'll go ahead, I'm gonna go. Here's a change. This is just a change regarding, this is accuracy. Yeah, so that's just a number.
there's a change, working
Yep.
more than 20 hours.
Yep.
Okay.
A lot of these were just the ones that Jan went through and said, well, we changed the sick leave policy or whatever, so
Yep.
we need to
That
make
was
sure.
never in
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Um, Here's a change.
Yeah.
It may be converted regardless of outside work status.
Okay. Change to the website.
Yeah, this is just a link,
Got it.
so it's a simpler link.
It's just, yeah. Oh,
So we've changed, one of the things, a personal issue for me is I like I don't like ambiguity. I like as few words as possible to say what you need to say. So this would change from shall be eligible for sick leave is now to will accrue
Mhm.
according to the following schedule to a maximum equivalent of 45 days prorated.
Much better.
Okay.
That's it.
And that's it.
Great
I
work.
see nothing.
I
that-
have no problem with any of that. Thank you for all of your work.
I would be delighted if you would therefore vote.
I move that we approve the changes to the personnel handbook as presented by Phyllis.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for that.
So what I'll probably do is come to your office next week and talk about next steps and who I'm gonna get in touch with.
Sure.
When I'm
Yeah.
gonna clean this up and all that.
Oh, I'm excited to get this moving forward. You have no idea.
Thank you.
for zipping through that. I
Yeah,
really
yeah, well, thank you for
appreciate it.
zipping through it. The last item on new business we're tabling, so we'll move on to the items not anticipated 48 hours in advance of the meeting, which is of course the Eversource discussion on tree removal on private property. And.
Mike, are you there? I see there's a couple people here from,
Mike King
Hey,
from Eversource.
good evening.
Thank you for all that work.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, and Veronique, thank you for the invitation to be here this evening. I'm joined here with a few colleagues here at Eversource. Mike Fraga, the manager of operations, Nick Langoni, and Gilberto Silva, both of those from the engineering department. We'd be happy to answer any questions, explain what's going on. So I yield to your team, Mr. Chairman, and how you want us to proceed.
I believe we just have some concerns with residents on tree removal, as we have seen some trees that were removed without prior notice to the property owners. And I guess the main question would be, when are those notifications going out, and are they gonna happen, or is there any anticipation of cutting down trees before the poll hearing?
Mike, can you take that?
Yeah, I can answer that, and the answer is very simple, absolutely not. I don't know of any trees that were taken down without permission, and if there is one that happened, I'd really like to investigate that specific instance. The process typically starts with a team that we have that goes out and gets permissions, and usually requires a sign off for any private property tree from the owner before we even give that to our arborist team to execute. So I know I probably have quite a few residents on North Bone Road that are the main people that are concerned. That project is pretty impactful if we do, what we're thinking of doing or what we propose to do. And, we're still in the planning stages of that. And once we get just a little further along, we'd like to sit down with the board and the tree warden, which we've been talking to on Whately Road, but not so much we have not talked to on North Pond Road yet, just to see if it's even a feasible option to get out of that right away that's been, troublesome over the years. I have some statistics that we can review, but again, I don't want to bog down this. I'm happy to share them right now, but I just really wanted to say that as far as North Poland Road goes, we're still in the infancy stages of design there and trying to figure out what's feasible for a more reliable service or to that zone. And that section that runs behind the houses off road there has been problematic, but going to the road does involve extensive tree work that would have to be approved by the town. So for all the residents that are on right now, I know that there was a bunch of flags put out there that probably instilled a lot of concern. I've had those flags removed. They were really just our initial team going out there, just reviewing what it would take, and sometimes we'll do that just so we can take a ride with the tree warden or anybody else, any other town member that can take a peek or take a look and drive, and just makes it easier to talk sometimes when we come to these meetings if you actually see what we're looking to do. But just in the interest that it's so far, it's just, typically this is earlier on in the process than we would normally start flagging poles. Because the crew was out there for Whately Road, I had them take a look in that zone as well to see, and we're looking at a couple hundred trees that need to be removed if we end up going that route, if the town ends up approving it, so I guess with that
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
So the trees that were tagged on North Poland Road, those are on town property? None were tagged on private property?
I think it'll probably be a mixture. The majority are on, town property, because we are going to edge of road, or, just 4 or 5 feet off the road. We got about a mile of wire that goes behind the homes and through right of ways that's very difficult to access, during weather events,
Yeah, I think
which
that's,
leads to prolonged
Yeah,
outages to those customers, not just in that zone, but beyond that zone as well.
yeah, I think that's something that some residents probably don't know or understand is about the right of way off of the road. Do you want to just describe what Eversource has as far as right of way rights? That 5 feet.
Well, we don't, as far as 5 feet on the edge of the road, we don't have a right of way right now. That was something we would have to request the town to grant permission for us to set poles in the town's taking, the town's easement or, road, which usually includes edge of pavement plus 5 to 10 feet, depending on what the town right of way or the town road is. So typically we would, in that process, propose, pole locations to the town, which would be staked out, and subsequently any tree removals that would need to be performed as part of, relocation of that line, and then we'd have to, come to a consensus that that is a good project, between the select board and us, I understand the residents of that zone are probably not gonna be opposed. It does feed quite a few residences beyond there, so great or good, I don't know, and that's something that, once we get to that point, I don't wanna, until we have a full proposal, I would prefer not to go down that path right now here today, but certainly we can talk a little bit about it. But those customers have seen, over 48 outages in the last 3 years on North Poland Road. I mean, that's quite a few, and we've identified that particular right of way is one of the key issues there. So we have other options to harden that area currently staying in that right of way, which would involve some tree trimming, but it involves accessing wetlands, and ultimately, we're spending the same dollars, the same asset, the same capital investment for a less reliable product. So, I'm not saying that that's not the path we'll go, but again, this would be a discussion between the town, the select board, and us, and trying to come up with the best solution for the residents of that zone.
When do you think you'll have the proposal ready for that area?
It's something that's slated for the second half of next year.
Okay.
So, possibly sometime in March, February, March, we'd have something more concrete to sit down with the board and discuss. It would be, I think an initial conversation is, is this something we want to pursue? And then if it is, then we would draft some petitions for the actual rights for the poles. And then, and that would be a select board decision to either grant or deny those petitions. And then from there, we would proceed with tree removal permissioning from the town warden, the tree warden. And that's typically how the process works.
Okay.
We do like to get a feel initially before we, go too deep into the design of, how much opposition the town has for the project, typically.
Michael, this is Jean Thomas, and I'm on the Conservation Commission. So I understand that this is all preliminary and there's no plan to go forward immediately, but as long as we're talking and I'm at this call, could you just indicate whether there's any wetlands involved?
I do believe there's wetlands that would be involved in both scenarios, whether we have to rebuild the back half of the right of way where it exists now, or relocation of the poles to the street. I don't believe I have a full mapping of that zone, but I think there's some riverfront or some running water there as well. So there's certainly some areas that would have to be discussed with the committee, as well as the tree removal. So there's a lot of different moving parts when we start looking at, trying to improve reliability in an area like this where we're not on the road. And like I said, so the first, the tree tagging happened a little bit ahead of normally where we would be. We normally would be talking to the Comcom and, you know, letting the select board know what we're looking to do before we start talking about tree removals, because that's really the second half of the process.
Okay, well, it's very helpful to know that that's something we need to consider, and, you know, we're not gonna like say, oh, this has nothing to do with our committee, and that you're aware too that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Is there any other public comment?
Thank you for coming, Jean, I really appreciate it on this such short notice. I'm Brenda Lilly, I am a North Poland Road resident. I came home Wednesday from work with over 40 trees tagged, which would be a clear cut along the road of beautiful old trees. The reason why we moved here is the whole canopy of the trees along the road, how beautiful that looks, how it's holding the road together. It goes completely downhill from those trees, you cut them all down. We're gonna have erosion, we're gonna have the rivers destroyed with all the erosion that'll be coming off the road and from those trees they're holding in so much right now. And honestly, it was devastating the day before Thanksgiving to come home to the fact that 40 of our trees are gonna be down, and our other neighbor had the same thing, to come home with no prior knowledge, imagine how we must be feeling. Imagine if somebody went in front of your house and you live in the middle of nowhere and they're going to chop down all your trees.
I think the tornado already did that.
Right.
You know, we had a tornado, so.
Right, well, so back to the right of way, I've been working with arborists for years. We've been living here for 30 years, and they come by, we flag the trees, yep, take those down. We've been very accountable. They just did a bunch of cutting because of where the lines are, and then for you to remove them, it just seems devastating that and every time you cut a tree down, it's a mess and it looks horrible until it can finally grow back over years. But it's not going to be a pretty scene no matter what you do if you're going to cut all those trees down. I just think, leave them the way they are. We lose power, it comes back on. We don't care, that's why we're out here. You know, we have backups, everybody has backups, it's just why we live here. You know, we don't want to look like Agawam or New York City where you come in and just cut everything down just to move a pole over. I mean, it just seems, you should see these trees. I mean, they're beautiful, you know? I mean, it makes our road, people drive to our road to park, to walk, because it's so pretty. And honestly, one of the reasons why they're so pretty is because the power lines are not right on the road, you know? You go up 116, where are the power lines? They're not on the road, they're off the road, and that's what makes 116 so beautiful. You know, I mean, I understand, you know, you want to be accommodating all of these things. We're getting into all these, you know, changes and stuff. We're fine with changes with cell phones and cell towers and stuff. But when you're going to come and clear cut a road, it changes our whole community and it changes how we live in our neighborhood. And yes, we are going to fight. We don't want those trees cut down. This is not going to be a one and done fight. I'm going to be following this from step to step. All of us are. The whole road is. We're the only ones that come in such a short notice.
Do you or your neighbors have prolonged outages, electrical outages?
Never prolonged. These guys are amazing. They come out here, we're done the next day. I think since I've lived here for 30 years, maybe 2 or 3 days tops. And that's before the storm, we didn't really, and you know, every time they come, I compliment them. They're the nicest guys. I can't say enough good things about the people who come up here. We had a big storm. We had people coming from the south to help us. And yeah, so we're not the only place in the whole Massachusetts that seems to lose power. Everybody loses power. You hear it on the news. It's just a way of life if you're going to live out here. So to drastically change a neighborhood just because we're going to lose power every now and then, I don't think that's a really good excuse because it's everywhere.
Yeah. And that's maybe something important to follow up on. Just talk to all the people in your area and see if anybody's having, you know, prolonged outages, if it's really a serious problem.
No, it's never been a problem. They've been great, honestly. I've never complained once about how long the power has been off. I mean, it just does it. It's just one of those things. So you have a great team. They're working. It's working. Why change a good thing, personally, and why make this place look so ugly? Trees are what makes it look beautiful here, actually along the road. And I could take some pictures of some really beautiful trees that you had tagged, and I took them all off. Honestly, you guys didn't take mine off. I told Win to take his off. He said, oh, I don't know if I should do that. I said, there's cut those trees down. I'm gonna camp out in front of those trees. So that's why mine were all gone. I'm sorry about that, but.
Didn't get that report today, that, because I had them take all the flags down and they did tell me that, so, you know, again, this is gonna have to be a discussion between, you know, I'm sure the select board will weigh in other residents, you know, there heavily, and when we get to that point, you know, I understand your perspective in keeping the beautification of the street. As far as reliability, there's nothing more reliable than being in that zone. But, you know, that's something for, I think we can discuss in more detail once we have some options. And we will have an option of, you know, of rebuilding in place, but that comes with some environmental implications as well. So again, once we get further along, I'm sure we'll have plenty more discussions. But I totally understand your perspective.
I would just say that, I mean, so it sounds like the tags are gone now. But I feel like the residents of North Portland Road, if you're planning to go and tag trees again to complete this assessment, they would definitely appreciate a heads up before, you know, coming home to find, you know, like just all these trees tagged in front of their houses.
No, we'll talk to the board and get permission for the, you know, I guess if we do proceed forward, we'll petition the polls, and then, you know, the board, at that point, when we petition the poll, we'll give you we have an estimated count of what we're gonna need for tree work there. And that would be part of the approval of the polls if we continue to pursue that option. So that would be the board's decision. And then from that point on, we would go tag the trees and we'll talk about each individual tree, you know, which would be a later discussion. But that would all be conditional upon the board's approval of our petition if we submit one for those polls.
All right.
So, we're going to discuss this internally. We'll look at them, you know, we'll look at alternatives, and then again we'll come to the select board with, you know, what we feel is the best solution and pluses and minuses, and at that point you know we'll come up with a plan, I think.
And just to
Well, thanks for coming to the meeting.
Just to calm everyone's nerves, I just want to reiterate, no trees will be cut down prior to notification of the select board, of the tree warden, and the hearing. Okay, thank you so much.
Good.
And the conservation commission as well.
Thank you. Yes, Concom. All right,
Thank you.
thanks for the.
So we are on Whately Road, just to change gears just a little bit. You know, Whately Road, we've started some, you know, those poles we're all just replacing them in place and upgrading our standard pole and tree wire that, you know, is a little more resilient to storm damage there now. So apologize for not, you know, being a little more lack of communication, I should say, to the board about, you know, a project that we're doing to increase reliability. It didn't require any petitions for any new locations, so that work was all done. But I do think that better communication would be warranted, and I'm committed to doing that in the future before we get going on any major project where we're changing, you know, the span of poles in the road, because I understand that probably raises quite a few questions as to what we're doing there. But that was just another area that we have some prolonged outages, and the frequency of outages is higher than our standard that we're trying to harden up there. So that project we kind of did in two phases, where we did the section where we're just going to replace like-for-like facilities there, and just upgrade what's existing there. I think we're going to be submitting a couple petitions to jog around a couple of things for some additional poles on Roaring Brook and Cricket Hill that should be coming your way. But none of those poles and none of those new locations will be done prior to the board approval. What we're doing right now is just upgrading existing facilities where we can.
Can I just ask about that with the like-for-like poles that you're doing? Are they actually taller and, you know, bigger than the little ones?
Typically, they're, you know, our new standard, we go with what the standard construction is, you know, and it is a little bit, I think they're about 5 feet taller than, you know, when those were installed years and years ago. They're probably a little bit thicker as well, but nothing maybe 10% taller. I wouldn't think it was, but that is the new standard. When we maintain any pole, we build it to the current standard.
Okay, thank you.
Great,
You're welcome.
thanks.
All right.
All right.
Well, I'm sorry for the fire drill for all the residents on North Pond Road. And hopefully it didn't weigh too much on you over the long weekend. And we look forward just to trying to, shore up the system out there in Conway. It's a challenge out there sometimes when it's snowing, and we're just trying to provide better service, more reliable to the residents. So, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for joining short notice.
Yes, thank you all very much.
Mr. Chairman, back to that other issue of Bernie bringing her, and the last issue you were talking about, her computer going home. She's not afraid to use it too. She sends me emails all throughout the night.
Oh, we know. Well, thank you again.
So it works at home.
Don't give her your cell number.
Nothing in the person.
All right.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mike and everybody.
We've all had those early morning
Good
texts.
night. All right,
Y'all have a good rest of your night.
thanks.
Okay, we'll move to the top of the agenda, minutes, vote to approve the minutes of November 18th.
I move to approve the minutes of November 18th. They look good to me.
Okay, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes, thank you. Next item on the agenda is warrants. Went through the warrants, like we were saying about the new emergency facility. I saw some of the bills in there already for the great work they've completed so far, so I'll make a motion to vote to approve accounts payable warrant in the amount of $177,554.79, the payroll warrant in the amount of $135,734.96, and the payroll deduction warrant in the amount of $34,091.74.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Meetings attended by select board members.
None in the last 2 weeks.
And I had capital improvement committee the day after our last meeting.
Okay.
Public comments. None, okay?
I think we already had.
Yeah, right? Unfinished business, none. We already did the joint new business. We already did that. TA updates.
I don't have a whole lot, seeing as how it was Thanksgiving week. But just to let you know, RTE will be coming in on Friday to do their own internal audit of our, on-site audit of our streetlights. And then the following week, send us their information, so that's exciting to get
Do
going.
they do that at night? I mean, or is that something that they do,
No, they do it during the day, yeah. They're going off of the map that they got from Eversource, but also then there were people in the sustainability committee that went out and did it also. So they're kind of using both and combining. And actually, I had a chat with Chris Eugen, because supposedly something's going a little wonky with the 2 lights that were found that the library was paying for, but they weren't on. Yeah, so there's still some.
2 lights.
Yeah, there were 2 light poles that.
Oh, I thought it was 1.
No, there's,
Wow.
yeah. So we're going to try to get to the bottom of that as well. But I did put on what the select board had approved for the bulky pricing on the website, and I'm ordering the new stickers for next year. And then we've got on next week's agenda just to confirm that the vote for the 52 stickers starts January 1st. Because if we start it then we get more RDP points. So, and actually it makes sense, because normally halfway through the year, you all had voted that it would go to half price at $10. And then there's no point giving out 104 stickers. It was the 52, so it would be 52 anyway. But
and people who have stickers can just hold on to them and not get their new stickers, correct?
Well, you still need the decal.
The decal, right?
the decal in July, you
Yeah.
need, yeah, right.
But yeah.
But then, yeah, it's just for, maybe I'm not understanding the
No,
question.
I'm confusing you. It's I shouldn't have even opened my mouth, sorry. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And so then there's also you know, we've been looking into trying to do this firewood bank. It's been kind of bubbling around for a number of years. And Conway had run into a couple of problems just trying to figure out how to make it happen ourselves. Buckland had gotten this big grant, they're doing stuff, but there are other towns who are really interested in it as well, but had the same problems I think we did. So now we're talking with DCR and Woodland Park and a bunch of people about how to make this work regionally. So it's kind of a slow process, but we're having some meetings on that. I have gotten one application so far, so I'm assuming I'm gonna get a fair number more.
When's the deadline for that?
The 13th, yeah. And the work starts January 2nd, which is why it's the 13th, because then I have 1 week to sort through and assign jobs and everything. And then we did go, Chief Bates and Ron Sweet and I down to District 1 just to get an update on the replacement for the temporary bridge on North Poland Road. So they did extend, I know they had asked permission of the board a while back to go. We had been hoping they were going to do the construction season from end of school year to beginning of school year, right? So over the summer. And then they asked for an extension in October. Now it looks like more like November. So it's looking like it's going to be, what is that? June, July, August, September, October, 5 months. So, but that's still pretty quick to construct the bridge. So, and I haven't heard anything new about the Bardwell's Ferry, but so that was really it. It was kind of a quiet holiday weekend.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Before we go on to members' comments and concerns, let's go to, first of all, to
That's all, that's,
It's all-
I'll
okay.
talk about that.
Got it. Okay, let's go to mail. The HRA Franklin County Regional Housing and Development Authority Annual Report.
You know what? I didn't print out my copy of that. Really, all that is when they show us what we have left in the bank,
Yeah.
and when people have applied for monies to get their homes fixed, and it's under a certain income and whatnot. But that's probably something that we should think about advertising more so that
Yes.
people are more aware that that's out there.
Agreed. Now, okay. Xfinity price changes.
That was just we get those like every week, but this one seemed an interesting one, so
Well,
I
it's
just
a pretty big one.
popped it in there for
Did you
you all
see it?
to see.
No, I would like to see this. Corporations, I tell you what. Let's monopolize.
It's all that tree trimming.
So we can raise prices.
Well, let's
we
not
can't do
bring them
anything
into
about
that.
it. All right, so starting December 20th, prices for certain services and fees will be changing. And what are those pricing?
Oh, there's a whole, there's 3 pages of charts.
Yeah. Normally, it's just a one-page letter that outlines a few things that they're always tweaking stuff, but this one just looked pretty.
Okay, so it looks to be about 3% across the board from what I'm seeing.
So they should be sending this to all Xfinity customers individually too,
They
right?
do.
I didn't get one. Xfinity customer.
Let's see, two. Some 5%, 3 to 5%. Yeah, 3 to 5%.
We got from nothing afterwards. Same as health insurance.
You know that drives me crazy.
Yep.
That drives me crazy.
Corporations are legally obligated to maximize profits for their shareholders.
Yeah, isn't that wild? All right, so that's the unfortunate mail, the second part of it. Select board member comments and concerns.
I'm good right now.
Yep, thanks Xfinity. Changing their name. Because the name they were using before was so disparaged and such awful that they had to change. You're gonna have to change your name again, Comcast.
Is that why they did it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't
It's a
know that.
rebranding.
Oh, geez.
Thinking, oh, people won't realize we're Comcast.
Well, you fooled me.
Yeah.
All right, announcements. None. Next meeting, December 16th. Anything else?
No?
Thank you, everybody, for joining. I will make a motion to adjourn.
Well, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.